Hi, my name is Sissy and I am a psychiatry registrar. I am finally a psychiatry registrar. So a psychiatry registrar or an SPR or I am an ST4. So what that means is that I'm finally done with my SHO years. I was an SHO for a while. So SHO, I've done a whole video explaining the different terms of doctors in the UK, which I will link above and below. You can go check it out. But in summary, core training, or not core training, but training in the UK in most specialties is in two parts. So in psychiatry, it's also in two parts. And the first one is core training, which is 3 years. And then there's higher training, which is either 3 to 5 years, depending on the subspecialty you choose. And at the end of that, then you'll be a consultant psychiatrist. So my core training took me 4.5 years because I took 18 months out for maternity leaves. So those were 2 maternity leaves. I took 9 months out for each of my maternity leaves for each of my 2 kids. And I wanted to just share the process of applying for higher training because I feel like until I got to it, I didn't really know much about what was going on and what would be required of me. And also by the time I applied, I felt like I wasn't ready, to be honest. Like it was not in my plan. I thought I would be applying to start higher training for February 2025, but then I returned to work after maternity leave, and then I happened to look at my CCT calculator. You can find the CCT calculator over at the Royal College of Psychiatrists website or your specialty. CCT is completion, anyway, the completion of training date. So they tell you a date that you're going to be done with your training on this date. My CCT calculator showed that I would be done with core training in August of 2024, and so meaning I could qualify to apply. In the end, it turned out that actually my dates changed and my CCT date was like in September, but my TPD said it was fine and they approved for me to just go on because I had got all the competencies anyway. Because these days training is more of competency based, which means that it doesn't mean that you have to have finished all the entire months, although they can't also make you finish too early. Usually it's 6 months or less is the allowance that they give. That's what we were told anyway in our induction. So I'm assuming that you are core training watching this video, so you know all about this anyway. But so I'll get right into the process of applying for higher specialty training. So the first step is to decide what subspecialty you want to apply for. The options are general adult, CAMS, learning disabilities, forensic psychiatry, medical psychotherapy, and old age psychiatry. Or if you're not sure and you can't choose between the two, you can also do combinations. So there's 7 combinations you can do. So for instance, you can do general adult and old age. You can do general adult and medical psychotherapy, general adult and CAMS, general adult and learning disability. There's a bunch of combinations that you can also do that adds up to 7 other options. So for me, I was really conflicted between general adult and medical psychotherapy because number one, I have a strong interest in medical psychotherapy, and so I wanted medical psychotherapy. But at the same time, I wanted general adult psychiatry because I was more interested in perinatal. I did a job in perinatal psychiatry and I loved it. And to be a perinatal psychiatrist, you have to do general adult. So I was so torn between the two. So in the end, what did I choose? Keep watching and you'll find out, or maybe just scroll and until I reach that part when I talked about it. There are also some subspecialties which are called endorsements that if you do general adult, you can also get endorsed in those ones. So for instance, medical psychotherapy, you can't get endorsed in medical psychotherapy. You can't get an addiction or liaison psychiatry. So that means that in your higher training, if you do general adult, then you can do an endorsement if you get 1 full year like of experience in that particular field, like in addiction or liaison. So after choosing the specialty you want, then go to the specialty recruitment website and look at the timelines. This is really important because you want to know when should you be applying for what dates, and you want to make sure you have everything in line, because for higher specialty training, you can apply before you've done your CASC, but there's a date by which your CASC results will have to be out. There's a date by which you have to have your self-assessment verification done. So that is a part I'll talk about later, but you have to see when you need to apply, because for instance, to start in August, the applications open in November and they close in December, and it's just like a 2-week window. I think it's the last week of November to the first week of December, but then the job starts in August. similar to like how core training was. So just have a look at the timelines and see what you need to be done by what date. The next thing is to prepare for the application. So ideally you should be doing this even before, well, like city 1, city 2 even. I would advise you to do this. I did not do this because I was not really thinking so much ahead and I was busy having kids. That was my priority. But ideally you want to try and think about this in advance and try and see what can you do to increase your chances of getting into your desired specialty. All HST jobs are competitive because, for instance, if you look at the number of core training jobs that are available and the number of HST jobs, you find that there are so much fewer. So for instance, for the whole of Sussex, there was only 9 general adult posts, and yet there's so many core trainees. So obviously not everyone wants to go into a higher training job, but if they did, they wouldn't even be able to. The next thing you want to do is do your exams. So you have to do your paper A, paper B, and your CASC. I've done videos on my experience of these exams that you can watch, and I've linked those above and also below. Get some documented leadership experience, do audits, do quality improvement projects, get involved in research if there's any going on around, submit posters to conferences and things. So I'm going to explain a little bit more when it comes to the self-assessment website, or when we come to the self-assessment part further along. But these are the kind of things you want to be doing alongside your core training. Don't be waiting for the last minute, because at the end of that day, you need these things to be done even before the application has been submitted. When the applications have opened, then you're going to go to Oreo. So the application is via Oreo, just like our training. Fill in the application, make sure you choose the right one, because usually at the same time higher training applications are out, I think also core training applications are also out. So you might end up clicking the wrong thing accidentally. So make sure you click the right one. That is for higher specialty training. All subspecialties are applied for in the same application, so you won't find higher training, maybe forensics or medical psychotherapy or even CAMS. You will find it all together as one application, and then you choose the subspecialty later on in the process. So all you have to do is fill out all your information, the usual things: name, date of birth, any time out of training, your entire career, like your entire history, maternity leave, anything that you've taken out, equality, diversity, any convictions, any crimes, all that. You fill in your application. There's also a part of references. Put your references, click submit, and then you get a confirmation email, and then you wait. The first thing that they do is long listing. So they'll send you an email and say that you have passed the long listing part. And so that means you've got the basic requirements that they need, like you have GMC registration. Next, you will have an invitation to interview. So for higher specialty training for psychiatry, we do have interviews. And at the time I did it, it was still virtual, which I was so grateful for. I think they're going back to in person soon. So you get an invitation to interview, and the interview is very similar to it's kind of similar to, so for me, because when I was applying for my core training, we were still doing interviews. It was pretty similar to that, actually. And if your core training did not require interviews and you just did the MSRA, then you don't have experience in this. But you want to prepare for your interview. So the interview has 2 scenarios, which are similar to like CASC, but it's not as long. They don't give you as much time to go into it. And also, actually, I'm sorry, it's not like CASC. It's not like CASC where there is maybe an actor who's a patient, and then there's like a panel. There's like 2, I think there were 2 psychiatrists, and then there's a third person who's like admin, and then they give you a scenario, and then you explain what you would do in the scenario, not necessarily what they don't make you act it out. It's not like a role play. It's like, tell us about this. How would you manage this situation in the workplace? How would you manage this kind of patient? And then they ask you a lot of other follow-up questions. So they do give you the question in advance so you can prepare. So my first tip is to make sure you prepare for the interview. Don't just go just like that. So for me, I had initially on my own come up with maybe a few points of some answers. I had like 3 points, and then I discussed with my friend and she had like 10 points. So remember that everyone is going to be given the interview question in advance. So don't just think that everyone is going to just show up just like that. No, make sure you prepare. And there's people who can help you with this. So for me, I practiced with my consultant. I practiced with my friends that were also having the interview, and I attended lots of webinars and things. There's someone called Dr. Raja Adnan Ahmed who has a YouTube channel. He's very active on the International Medical Graduates page, and he also had a webinar also where he was giving us tips closer to the interview date. He also does one-on-ones, which I would recommend that you go ahead and pay for a one-on-one where he can guide you and give you personalized feedback on how to approach the interview. So anyway, prepare for the interview, and then you do the interview. It's only like 15 minutes, but it's really good to prepare for it because obviously they ask you so many questions in those 15 minutes, and so it's very hard to think on the spot. But at least if you have some prepared answers, I think it really helps. After the interview, then there is a self-assessment. So here they'll send you a link to another website which is for self-assessment, where they ask you for all kinds of things. So this is like your CV, or this is where you show the experience that you have. The funny thing is that it was not specialty specific. So if you want to get into, let's say, forensics or CAMS, there is nowhere it really show us your experience in those things. I found that really strange. So for instance, for me, there was nowhere where I could say, oh, I want to get into maybe medical psychotherapy, and this is the kind of work I've done in medical psychotherapy. No, forget that. It's all that I think helps you. Maybe, I guess it helps you maybe in future, but at the moment, there is no point in the interview where they ask you for that. So in the self-assessment, there's a specific number of domains which I'm going to go through and explain what kind of things you can be working on to try and improve your chances of getting training in those domains. So the first one is undergraduate training. So did you have any additional degrees? So for instance, I have no additional degrees in my undergraduate training. Some people have additional degrees in their undergraduate training. I think like BScs and other things that I'm not familiar with. The next domain is undergraduate training, prizes and awards. Did you get any prizes or awards in your undergraduate training? So for me, I put that I was on the dean's list, so meaning my CGPA was above a certain level, and so I did get an award. So I uploaded my certificate for that. So if you're watching this and you're in medical school, what are the chances? It's unlikely. I guess do your best and get as many awards as you can and prizes and things. I've just remembered that I did get a scholarship from the government of Uganda to do medicine. Is that an award? Maybe I should do that for like future things, because I've noticed that this is the same kind of thing they ask you every single time. Like from applying for, when I applied for my very first job, which was a worst job, it was similar things they wanted. When I was applying for core training, similar things. Higher training, same things. They'll always ask you for this history. So anyway, undergraduate training, any prizes or awards, you upload them here. The next is postgraduate medical qualifications. Have you got any postgrad qualifications? So for me, in this case, I have an MSc, so I put that. If you have an MSc, obviously, that adds you extra points. So there are points for each thing. So for instance, there is 0 points if you don't have anything. 1, 2, and 3 is the maximum. So for instance, I guess if I had a PhD, then a PhD would add you more points than an MSc in this domain. The next is a leadership role within an organization. So for the leadership role within an organization, it was marked as 0 for no leadership points, 2 points for leadership experience at a local level of at least 6 months. I've forgotten the 3, but then 4 points, I think 3 would be regional level, and then 4 points is leadership experience at national level of at least 6 months. So for leadership, for me, in my case, I was a core trainee rep at the time of application, although actually, I was a core trainee after I had already submitted my application. So being a core trainee did not help me in my application, but you should consider being a core trainee rep at some point in your core training, because it gives you it gives you evidence of leadership. So anyway, I also am I'm on the church committee in my church. I'm a member of a church committee, which makes me a trustee of a charity. So anyway, that is leadership. I did not use that because that is not national level. Like, it's leadership, but I guess I would be like regional level. But I am also on the mental health lead for the British Ugandan Doctors Association. So to me, I consider that national level because it's the entire, I guess, like it's higher, it's national. So therefore, I got maximum points for leadership because I scored myself. For me, I put that leadership in the maximum domain, which is national level leadership. And it's verified self-assessment because you put your things where you think that they should be, and then there'll be a human person at the back of it who will come and verify and say, do they agree with this or not? And for each thing, you don't just say, you have to have evidence. So I did have certificates for the various things. I did get a letter from the Buddha president saying my role in the organization, how long I have been in the organization, and all that. The next is clinical governance, audit, and quality improvement as a postgraduate. So I have done audits. I have been involved in quality improvement projects. So I put my evidence for that, certificates and other things. Research is the next field of which I have zero research experience, and so I got to 0 points in the research thing. Although I feel like actually I do have some research experience, but I think I didn't have like evidence. I didn't have any certificates. So anyway, I put nothing for me in that domain. Whatever you have in research, put it there. The next is teaching. So I have done teaching to medical students, and I had an assessment of teaching form done by my consultant when I was teaching a group of medical students once. And it's also has levels. Like there is, was it a lecture? How many people were they? So for me, it was like a lecture. And the maximum in the teaching field is if you have an MSc in medical education. That is when you get the maximum, like 5 points, I think. The next bit is academic publications. That's undergraduate or postgraduate publications written on behalf of a doctor in training-led collaborative. So for me, I have no publications. Well, actually, I did get a publication after one of our poster presentations that we did with my colleague. I think she submitted it to some journal, and so I found it because I searched myself for like publications, and I saw there was something with my name on it. So I did that with my friend, and she went ahead and did it. So thanks, Samina. Yeah, so try and get publications, even publishing articles, and like you can get it published in like the BMJ. The next was presentations and poster presentations. So I have done a few poster presentations in different conferences, but I also have done a presentation at a conference. So I presented some work that we did over in a perinatal conference, so I did that. So I will have to warn you now at this point that if you have a piece of evidence in one domain, you can't again use it in the other domain. So for instance, I presented about our work. We did an audit in the perinatal team, and so I presented our audit at a conference. So that earns me marks of presenting at a national conference. But I also have an audit domain, so I could not use the same audit and put it in audit domain. So in audit domain, I've done some other audit in like my first year of core training, which I now put there. Because the good thing is they don't care how far back your evidence is from. However, it can be in the future, obviously, but they don't care how far back it is. So be aware of that, that if you do something in one field, you can't again use the same thing in the other domain. So that is it. And in terms of the score breakdown, so you're going to get marks for number 1, your verified self-assessment score. So remember, all these are going to be added up. So you submit your things and give yourself marks, and then someone else will come and verify and confirm or deny. So they might accept your assessment, or they might downgrade it, or they could even upgrade it if they think you've not scored yourself fairly. So for me, they accepted my verified my assessment. The way I'd done it is how it was accepted. The other thing is your online interview. When you do your online interview, you're also going to have marks for that. And the other thing is your CASC results as well. So if you haven't done your CASC, try and do as well as you can, because the higher you get, the better for you. I don't remember the breakdown of the marks, but I believe the CASC actually has the most weight, like 50%, and then another percent, I think 17, or I've forgotten. Another percentage is the online self-assessment, another percentage is the interview. So try and do your best in all of these things to get the most marks. The final score is used to rank eligible applicants alongside their jobs. So you're going to be ranked as applicants, and then now the preferencing comes in. So you rank your jobs in the order in which you would like them. So this is the point at which you will put the specialties and also the locations. So for instance, now this is when now I get to tell you what did I actually apply for and what did I get. So for me, I put my first choice as medical psychotherapy, Sussex, of which there was only one job. My second choice was dual general adult and medical psychotherapy, Sussex again, of which there was also only one job in the entire Sussex. And then my third choice was general adult psychiatry, Sussex. So, and that is it. I only applied for 3 jobs. And it's because we kind of decided that we prefer to stay in Sussex for various reasons. Initially, I was actually planning to go to Gloucestershire and be closer to my friend Carol, who I will miss so much, because we've lived close to each other before, and it was so nice I could just walk over to her place, and yeah, really nice. That was the main reason why we're moving there. Oh, the other reason was because it's cheaper. She lives in the southwest, so I live in the southeast. The most expensive part to live in the UK is London. The second most expensive is the southeast, which is where Sussex is, and the southwest is probably the third most expensive. But compared to the southeast, the houses over there were less expensive, especially because it was, I think, closer up to the Midlands. Anyway, wanted to move there because it was cheaper. You can get more house for your money, and also we have friends there. We have the Carrols. Anyway, in the end, we decided to just stay in Sussex, so that's why I only put Sussex jobs now. And then in terms of what did I eventually get, I got general adult. I got my third choice, and I'm glad because I got to discuss with my consultant at the time, who was advising me that actually if he was hiring people, because he used to be the chief medical officer of our trust, and he said that if he was hiring people, he would rather hire a general adult psychiatrist than a medical psychotherapist, just because a lot of times the kind of things medical psychotherapists can do, psychologists can do, and also other people can do who haven't been in training for as long. So you turn out to be very expensive. Like my services as a medical psychotherapist, I become very expensive compared to what some other people who can do the job too. Like they can do talking therapy as well, and yet they haven't gone to medical school, they haven't gone to like psychiatry training. So then you become really expensive. And so from that point of things, I encouraged myself. And also additionally, I want to do some work in Uganda at some point in the future, or even see people who are Ugandan. And a lot of times, I think we have a huger demand for general adult psychiatrists for like psychosis and things like depression. Like we have a lot of these common mental health problems, and that's also what encouraged me. Another thing is that while I love medical psychotherapy, I can also get an endorsement in medical psychotherapy as part of my training. So that means that I would have to take 1 year in my 3 years and have that only be medical psychotherapy jobs, and also following the medical psychotherapy curriculum. I'm not sure if I'll do that, but at least I have the option. Additionally, currently, my special interest is actually medical psychotherapy. So I am undergoing MBT practitioner training. So that means for my special interest, I'm helping to run a group, an MBT group, and also I have one-on-one clients. So at the end of 1 year, I should get medical practitioner training. Sorry, I should be an MBT therapist. Another thing as well is that you can also get additional training. So I want to, for example, do EMDR training, which can be paid for by a study budget. And so you can actually get these additional trainings alongside your general adult training. And then also, I also like perinatal psychiatry. So I can also get work in perinatal psychiatry. So in the end, I feel like it's worked out for me, and I'm happy with my decision. Oh yes, and another thing I was told is that I discussed with our psychotherapy tutor, and she told me that if I wanted, I could still also become a medical psychotherapist via the CSER pathway. That is by getting the additional trainings like on my own, or using study budget and things, and all together you can get all the competencies that would have been required even if I'd done a medical psychotherapy. So also I'm happy that I didn't get the dual job, because that is 5 years. And I know 5 years is not a long time, but at the moment I am kind of fed up. Not fed up, but I feel like I have been a trainee for so long. I need to get consultant pay ASAP. Because actually when you go to ST4, you get a pay cut because you don't have the on-calls, or the on-calls in higher training are really few, and so the money is not that much, so you end up getting a pay cut. And so that is why you'll still find me on the rota for core training, like not core training, you'll still find me doing SHO shifts, because I need some money, like I need more money, obviously, like everyone else. So anyway, that's it guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't passed the CASC and are looking to find out what can you do to pass the CASC to improve your chances, then watch this video here in which I shared all my tips.